Hey, what's up everyone? I'm out here going on a ruck on a trail. I'm about a half mile in. It's like 35 degrees outside, but wanted to get out here. It's nice and quiet, gives you a lot of time to think. So throughout this ruck, I'll just be popping in with my thoughts and see what we come up with. All right, everyone. A little over a mile in now. Heart rate's gone up a little bit. Usually when I wear the 30-pound pack, it goes up about 20 to 30 beats more than when I'm just regular walking. But some of the benefits with rucking that I thoroughly enjoy is that, you know, you get to get outside. You get this direct sunlight, given it's winter time now, so I got the sweatshirt on, but you get direct sunlight for, you know, if you do minimum 30, I'll probably do 2 hours today. So 2 hours of sunlight, 2 hours of steps, which will probably put me around 25,000 steps. So it's just great movement that we don't get in everyday life if you're working, you know, in an office or you work stationary and then you go home on the weekends. Another thing is just, it's a great way to clear your mind. Like, we got busy lives, you know, I got a full-time job and then the small business, trying to make sure I'm doing enough for each. But when I get out here, it's just me and myself, you know, in this trail. There's no really distractions. You get a clear mind to actually just, you know, think through things. So a couple of things with the rucking that I enjoy. Also, you know, it's a great way to get your conditioning in, right? Something a little bit more than walking. Walking is nice, but then you're gonna plateau eventually. So, and you can control how much you progressively load the body with your ruck. And it could be a backpack, it can be an actual rucksack. This is a 30-pound pack from Ruck. This is kind of just a really good one I like to use for maintenance. It's some resistance, but it's not overbearing. And it's not too light that I can still feel it. So you can overload the body that way so you can truly get some good strength work in. Not traditional strength training like in the gym, but if you hate going to the gym and you don't go to the gym, rucking can be a way to build some lower body strength and especially some core strength to protect your lower back, having to support the ruck for 30 minutes plus. And then from the conditioning aspect, if you hate running, it's a way you can still walk, but it's harder than regular walking because you carry that extra weight. So it's a way that we can still train our aerobic system, and probably my preferred way to kind of train that aerobic system. It is at like walking speeds, but also I'll mix in some short sprints, some short jogs, just to get the heart rate up and challenge the body. But if all you did was walk, it would still be a great exercise to do. All right, talk to you in a few. All right, so let's say you're interested in rucking, but you don't know where to start. I'd say with the weight of the pack, if you're general population, or if you're not in the military, you're not in the tactical field like police, things that would have to wear gear, firefighters, I'd say keep it between, you know, 10 and 30% to start for sure, and then go from there and see how you feel. And if it's easy or you're not getting much out of it, then go up and wait. But if you're in the military, if you're in a firefighter, police officer, you know, sometimes your gear might be more than that 10 to 30% of your body weight. Definitely more than 10%. 30%. For me, I'm 220 pounds. So that'd be a little over 70 some pounds, which is a good weight. It's a solid weight to ruck, especially any kind of appreciable distance. But there are times, if you're in the military, that your gear might weigh more than that total of what you're carrying. So at times you'll have to pop up and attack those higher ranges. So that's with kind of the load prescription. That's what I'd recommend. Base it off your body weight and go from there, and then go off a feel. That's the biggest thing. And if you're tactical, if you're, like I said, there's police, cops, same thing, firefighters, anything like that, military, then we'd have less of going off of feel and more going off of the mission needs or the needs of a soldier, firefighter, whatever, however much your gear typically weighs. Then we get more specific on actual numbers of the weight of the rucks that we would use. And then if we look at duration, like how long are we going to ruck or how far, it goes, first you have to ask yourself, how many times a week am I going to ruck? And how do I have to plan a special ruck session? With your, you're not any of those tactical fields. Like if you have a dog, when you're taking a dog for a walk, you can throw on, a 10, 20, 30 pound pack or a weighted vest. Probably the easiest thing to find would be a weighted vest. But you can throw that on and say you take your dog on a daily walk for 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day. Then let's say maybe that's 7 days a week. 3 or 4 of those days a week I'm throwing on the ruck, and then you got your rucking in for the week. It's really, you don't have to simplify or complicate it any more than that. And then if you find, like I said, a lot of it goes off the field with this stuff. So if that's not enough, or you don't feel like it's checking the box on what you want, then that's when I would start, okay, for my workout today, I'm going to go on that ruck. And I'd keep, definitely starting out, just do 30 minutes. And I'd keep the majority of your work between 30 and 60 minutes because we all got lives and we can't just dedicate our whole entire life to doing rucking or doing any kind of exercising. So I would say 30 to 60 minutes. Mix it up in there. You can change the weight of the pack if you have ways to customize it, but keeping it all within that range. So first thing, decide how many days a week I'm going to ruck. And then if there's any activities that I can do with it to make it to where it's something I already have to do, now I'm just adding a pack to it. So I'm getting a little bit more of an exercise, like walking your dog. If you already go on, daily walks or walks with your partner, anything you can do to squeeze in a workout without really having to spend much time planning or thought, really thinking about it, that's where I'd find. And then, if you find you want more, then go 30 to 60 minutes a session. You could obviously go longer, but that would be at that point after like an hour. Then you really got to plan everything out, at least plan it out more than you would. And then you want to bring your water, you need some food and stuff like that. But yeah, and then on the tactical side of things, I would say you're probably already doing some form of load training, especially if you're working with gear on. So if you're looking to improve it, research is going to tell you once every 2 to 4 weeks, which is a cool thing because that's still pretty much the current standard. And back in ancient Rome, they wrote in their history books and in their war manuals that to maintain proficiency with rucking or load carriage like they did with their foot infantry soldiers, they recommended once every 3 weeks. So it's pretty crazy and cool how really the standard hasn't changed in 4,000 years. So actually that's a bit far, 3,000 years, something like that. So I've prescribed with my athletes and people I've worked with, once a week rucks, and didn't have any issues with that too. As long as you're just getting some form of strength training in through the week, it's going to protect yourself from kind of overuse injuries that you might see. Well, like I said, twice a week of some basic strength training, and you'll be good to go. Same thing with the general pop. I keep most of your training sessions because we don't live in a bubble, and life is life. You have jobs, families. I keep it 30 to 60 minutes a session. And then with the tactical population, this is where I'd start to pick it up as, besides just walking, you can start setting pace times. Like, okay, I gotta do this mile in 16 minutes, 17 minutes, something like that, to where now you're pushing yourself to a time hack. Or And you'll probably find with that is you got to start doing some jogging. Got to start doing some sprints, and especially if you're in law enforcement and you realize you might have to chase someone with gear on, it's a perfect time to practice it while we're rucking, while we're carrying gear. So that's when we can get a little bit more creative with the ruck training, is when your job or your livelihood depends on you moving well under load. Same thing, I would just say I'd keep it to max once a week, but in reality you're still going to see improvements twice a week, and you won't have any issues. And I wouldn't go much more. You can only go heavy so often, right? With anything, with strength training, with rucking, you don't want to constantly throw like 100-pound pack on your back and go every time you ruck. Your body potentially will break down. You just need some lower intensity days to get the movement in and practice the technique, because there is a technique, like anything, there's technique involved with it. So schedule in those days where it's okay, it's lower intensity, maybe I don't have a pace to hit, and I'm just rucking. I'm getting the technique down, I'm getting my body some good movement, and you can always treat it as like a recovery session of just getting outside, getting some movement in. But the intensity with the tactical folk, with those police, firefighters, and military, the frequency or how many times per week we're going to do it is going to be less, because it's going to be a lot more intense when we do the training sessions. So you're going to need more time to recover. All right, and then traditional, ruck training or load carriage. When you're walking, right, it's typically just throw a pack on and walk. And that is great, and it can work for a lot of people, a lot of instances. But if you're looking to add some variety, there's a thing that I learned when I was working with the Army from another coach, that you can look at it as a muscular endurance method, or pre-fatigue. And eventually we're going to get to a point where, if we're like getting real serious with ruck training and we want to go farther and farther and farther, eventually we're going to be running into those time constraints again, to where we can't just keep going for hours and hours. So one way we can do it to, one, save time, and two, reduce the amount of mileage on the legs. Because if we're running and rucking, like a lot of military do, those miles add up on the joints. So the muscular endurance method, it's something real simple, and you can start with like one set each of like an upper body, a lower body exercise, and a core exercise. You can start with 3 exercises. You can go up to like 7, doing all the movement patterns. But you would start one set of each exercise and do 30 reps, and then go on your 4 or your 5 mile ruck. And then, the next time maybe we add a set, so now we're doing 2 sets of each of 30 reps, and then you can start bumping the reps and things like that. But what we're trying to do is pre-fatigue the muscles, or expose the muscles to a level of fatigue that they might feel during an 8-mile ruck, but say we're only doing 6 miles or 4 miles. So it's a way we can challenge the body, the endurance principles of rucking, without actually putting all those miles on our legs, to save our lower body joints in the long run. All right, and then another variation I used more with the military side of things is called the simulated mission method, or going on a patrol type method, to where the entire ruck is going to last an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, but we're only going to get maybe 2 miles, 3 miles, which in the military, they're going to be like, oh, that's not that much. I need more miles, I need more work. But what it is, if we're simulating, like a patrol, okay, we're gonna move for maybe 90, say for the example of the exercise, we're gonna move for 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Okay, now we're gonna stop, take a knee, or just whatever you want to do, something to break up the constant walking. We're going to take a knee for 30 minutes and quote unquote pull security, you know, scan the area, and then get back up. Do another 90 seconds to 2 minutes, back down on a knee. Things like that. Or just completely take your pack off, wait those 90 seconds, put it back on, and go. Although, you know, you don't typically take all your gear off when patrolling. But, and what that does, so if the muscular endurance method was looking at the muscle endurance side of rucking, and traditional ruck marching is looking at the aerobic capacity side of rucking. Now that third module, or that third area that I like to focus on, is that tissue conditioning aspect, and it's just your body's ability essentially to handle the load over long periods of time. And tying in that simulated mission method, what that's going to do is also cut down on those miles, right? Because you can get all three of those things: the aerobic capacity training, the muscle endurance, and the tissue conditioning, all from traditional ruck marching. But you're going to be putting a lot more miles on than typically what you would need or what you'd have to. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as your body can hold up, but I'm just giving you other options to save some miles on your joints. So we go back to that simulated mission method, and what that's doing, you know, we go for 90, take a knee, get up, go for 90, so rest 90, or pull security, quote unquote. What that's doing now, okay, we've had the pack on our back for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 60 minutes, whatever, but we've only done 2 miles. So now we've only added 2 miles to the joint, but we've added, you know, 1 to 2 hours of time under tension with this ruck on our back. So it's just another method to train those 3 areas of rucking that I like to focus on when I'm training someone for rucking, to get better at it. So aerobic capacity, muscular endurance, and tissue conditioning. So those are the 3 methods I like to focus on. And I just passed 1 hour of rucking. Okay. I'm about an hour 15. But say you're rucking, you're consistent with it, but your times aren't improving the way you want it to, or you know, you're not hitting the time hacks in between each thing, interval that you set. So, and you want to improve on that, besides doing more rucking, right? Because it's a very obvious answer to say ruck more. But if you want to know kind of the 3 biggest predictors of rucking performance, number 1's pretty obvious. It's it's aerobic capacity, right? So the more conditioned your aerobic system is, the better you're going to be. So that's where, to a point, you can train other avenues to improve rucking performance, but nothing's going to beat actually throwing on the ruck and doing it. So I would say mixing in those other conditioning methods. So if it's just straight running, if it's biking, if it's rowing, from a general aspect, that's going to improve your aerobic capacity, but you're still going to need to make sure you're rucking weekly or I'd say bi-weekly, if you want to improve your rucking performance. The second one is a little surprising, because it's upper body strength is the next best predictor of rucking performance. And you're like, oh, why is that, you know, a better predictor than lower body strength or lower body endurance, whatever? And it's really comes down to your upper body's ability to keep the pack and keep your walking motion as close to natural as possible. You might have some slight lean with it, but you want to, it's your upper body's going to control your strength. So your back, chest, you know, core, all of that is going to control your posture. And if we keep our posture in a good position, it's going to keep our walking as efficient as possible. So we're going to be able to maintain a good speed, and we're not going to get burnt out, you know, a mile in, 2 miles in, whatever, and then our form goes to crap, and then we start moving very inefficiently and wasting a lot of energy. And then obviously when energy goes down, our performance is going to go down. So, and then third would be the lower body strength. And it's obviously just supporting the weight that you're carrying. It's going to be heavily on your legs as well. So that's going to be another predictor. So you can look to improve those 3 areas outside of just rucking. You're obviously going to need to keep rucking to improve rucking, but those other 3 areas are kind of what you can focus on if you're looking to improve your rucking performance outside of just the simple answer of ruck more. I'd say if I had to pick one modality of exercise, which I mean, it's obviously a hypothetical, but it'd be hard not to pick rucking. When you look at the complete picture of the ease of access of how to do it, right? You don't need a gym membership. You really don't need to drive anywhere. You can obviously to a trail, or you could walk around the neighborhood. All you need is a way to load your body. When I say rucking, in general, I mean load carriage, training in general. So it could be all of this. It can be a ruck, and you don't have to spend a lot of money on like an actual ruck pack like this. These can get kind of pricey depending on, but they're great quality and they do last. You know, just use a weighted vest, something you can find like at Walmart or anything like that. I mean, heck, you could carry something. I wouldn't recommend that because your grip's probably going to get tired before anything else, but it's just all around a great exercise that trains some low-level strength work, definitely strength endurance for sure. It's great, just regular endurance training. And I think the ultimate thing is just how simple it is, in that you can completely just throw a pack on your back and then shut your brain off. So if you're so, you know, you're stressed with work, with life and everything, it's just nice to throw some weight on your back and then just move and just walk, and you're going to feel better with movement. That's been proven time and time again. Just really any kind of movement's going to benefit, especially the mental health side of things. And then you're going to get a lot of physical benefits with this as well. So it's just a really great modality for recreational athletes or non-tactical athletes. Tactical athletes, it's something we do need to be training because you're going to be wearing gear. You know, when the time matters most, you're going to be wearing gear. You're going to be able to need to move under that gear while it's on you. So it's great for recreational athletes. It's necessary for tactical athletes, and it's just a great way to honestly train your body, train your aerobic system. Especially, you know, so many people hate running. So this is a way that we can train that aerobic system, train, you know, your heart, get some good heart training in to protect it without having to run and having to suffer through the running. And then another thing is that, you know, gym anxiety is a real thing. People get extremely anxious, or to the point where they just don't go to the gym because of anxiety, social anxiety, whatever you want to call that specific instance. But rucking is another way, right? You can get out in the middle of nowhere. You can be surrounded by, there's no one out here. So it's a way we can get away from people if we just want time to ourselves and get some, you know, good exercise in. So I think it's a very viable option for a lot of people, as long as you can find a way to throw some weight on your body and you can walk and you can ruck. All right, I am just under 2 hours. I'm about to finish. I'm at 6 miles and for almost 13,000 steps. So nice slower paced ruck today. But yeah, if you have any questions on anything I went over, feel free to ask. You can ask at my Instagram, 814 Human Performance, or you can comment here, you know, on the video, and I'll get back to you. But yeah, thanks for watching.